Hello, fellas and ladies. I gotta cut my hair. This is getting bad. It's time to update them Oscar predictions. It is currently June at the time of speaking my mouth. Cannes has come and gone. We have a new Palm winner. We have a bunch of new information about some movies that we maybe thought were things but are no longer things. Despite the good buzz, I think we can pretty safely disqualify The Mastermind. That's pretty out. Die My Love is absolutely not happening. History of Sound, that's a pretty safe, I think we can safely disqualify that one. Highest to lowest, I think so too. It's just not getting that buzz. I mean, all of those movies I've heard are like at worst solid, but like not to that degree. There was a certain degree these movies had to pass, and none of them did it, and so I'm gonna safely disqualify all of them. Alpha is an absolute disqualification, like no matter how you want to put it. A couple of other things. Caught Stealing is pretty safely out. Trailer looks a little enjoyable, but otherwise I would say that's a pretty obvious no. Same goes for The Roses, although I think I've already discussed that on here. And other than that, I think we can safely get into it. I want to do this now that Cannes done, and right before we get into the heat of like festival announcements. I'm going to do another one before the festivals begin, but right now we're in this pocket of like, all right, we're going to be a little low on information for a little bit. We might get little droplets of news in between, but this is like the peak of like, we are not going to get anything major for a while. So let's get on to Best Picture. We have a pretty big lock. I'm calling it a lock. I'm saying Sinners is in. You guys are gonna like go, well, actually, I don't want to like jump, it's early to call it locked. Do you actually sincerely believe that there's a path of this movie doesn't make it? It's clearly got the juice to survive the genre, to survive the early in the year. It's a phenomenon. It's making buckets of money, yes, but also everybody loves it. It's got text galore on its side. I think that there is a path where it could win picture. I think so. Could it be my tunnel vision talking? Maybe, which is why I'm not going to jump the shark just yet, but maybe I could. I could maybe just put it in number one, and it wouldn't really cost me anything. I am going to stick with Marty Supreme at number one, only because I do think that could become a bigger deal. I don't think it'll be culturally as big a deal as Sinners, per se. Obviously, it's not going to make as much money. But again, A24 is putting a lot of stock in this movie, and, it could get an acting win. I think Safdie could be Josh Safdie. I should mention that. I think Josh Safdie could like really, get some flowers for this movie. So I'm really confident that Marty Supreme is going to become such a phenomenon and a big deal. Because it feels so extreme. It feels so much like it when it premieres at a festival, if it does even. I guess I could see it not premiering at a festival. In that instance, I would maybe back out of it a little bit, just because I feel like it needs that ground up buzz to get going. But either way, I do think when it premieres, when it comes out even, I think it's going to become like, I think Marty Supreme, that character that Timmy plays, is going to become like a bit of a pop culture thing. I can't get that out of my head. I really think Timmy's going to win for this. I really do. And then another movie I can pretty safely say is just going to get in is Sentimental Value. Neon went on a bit of a spending spree at Cannes, but this one they had from the get-go. But I'm actually glad Sentimental Value didn't win the Palm outright. I don't think it would have lost steam per se because of it, but I do think it stopped itself from becoming such a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, maybe it will still be that, because I'm hearing only the best things. But I think it's gonna have a real lasting presence when it comes to the fall festivals, and I think even without that Palm, it's gonna have that status on it. I also am happy that it didn't win the Palm, just because if it did, I think Neon would have just put all their weight behind it, whereas now they have an incentive to go out for The Secret Agent, and of course the Palm winner, it was just an accident, whereas if Sentimental Value won Palm outright, I think that would have been all right, only that. But you know what, I'm hearing so many things are just kind of locked in. I've heard actress, supporting actor, director, screenplay, editing even. I've heard the editing plays a real good role. Apparently Elle Fanning, it could get 2 supporting actors nominations, although I hear Elle Fanning's much more likely than any other. I'm going to hear some things about the score, but I'm hearing a little bit of mixed information on that end. But also international feature, which is Joachim Trier. It feels like his moment. My only concern going in, I never thought this movie was going to be bad. I always thought it was going to fuck. But my only fear was is it gonna live too hard in the shadow of the worst person in the world? And well, not everyone's saying it's better. The majority seems to agree that it's at worst on par, and I have heard some say it's better. Apparently it seems to be emotionally cathartic. I'm all in. We got Frankenstein, the new Del Toro movie. We have a trailer for this, and it looks incredible. Guaranteed to be a fall festival darling. I think we have to at least acknowledge, you cannot talk about Frankenstein without acknowledging that it has like at least 4 nominations just locked in. It's gonna get nominated for costumes, production design. I could win both, to be completely honest. Cinematography seems like it looks stunning. Look at that shit. Look at those shots. Makeup, I don't know what Elordi looks like, but I imagine it's gonna be insane if they're like hiding the way he looks. Plus, you got the score. Oscar Isaac looks really fucking good. From what I can tell, the movie is taking its own liberties. Like Del Toro's taking his own like direction with this movie. Apparently the movie is said to have a lot of heart. Like, it's not about the horror, it's about the heart, about love. I've seen some people like not very sure about Frankenstein, and I don't really know where they're coming from, to be completely frank. I get the idea that like, it's a monster movie. You already got a horror movie in there with Sinners. I get that, but like I do think, we're talking about 2 horror movies from like Oscar filmmakers, Ryan Coogler and Guillermo del Toro. I think this one's a pretty safe bet for me at the moment. I have no problem putting it in. Am I married to it? Maybe not. But, I feel good. Begonia is an interesting one. I think if you're going to be locked in and comparing it to, like, Yorgos movies, I think you're going to come up short, because I do not think this is going to reach, the tech highs of Poor Things. It's not quite like, a whole new universe this movie takes place in. I don't think it's going to get, like, costumes or production design or anything like that. Again, I just think it's going to be too much of, like, a lot of what I'm going to say has to do with, like, hey, they're going to be really buzzy and talking about movies at the fall festivals, and this is going to be no exception. Yorgos Lanthimos has, this is not a collaboration with F. Myth Philippou. We can maybe find out if the secret sauce really was Tony McNamara this whole time, maybe. But, Yorgos is going to implement some wacky shit in here. You got some stuff you can nominate with his acting. Maybe not the tech's, like, behemoth. But I think we got a lot going here, especially since it's dealing with a conspiracy theory and all that. Pretty relevant, I would say. One battle after another, the new PTA movie. Yo, why are we questioning this movie exactly? I've heard the arguments that I don't really buy it. I've heard it's great. It may not live up to PTA's highest, but like it's still Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't think anyone was calling Killers of the Flower Moon Scorsese's best, but he's just such an in-director. Some people are saying, it's gonna bomb. It might bomb, in relation to like its budget, but like it's still gonna probably make more money than like most of the movies I'm talking about. It's a action like political film. Like people are saying, it's gonna be divisive because of the politics. Oh yeah, the Oscars hate politics famously. I don't know. I'm not really seeing why people are questioning this one. It feels like a very easy bet to make. I'm not buying this reality that it's gonna bomb so hard that the Paul Thomas Anderson movie is going to just be completely eradicated from the face of the earth. You could argue that, Warner Brothers has found their golden goose in Sinners more so than one battle after another, and there could be truth to that. But again, I think, Paul Thomas Anderson has become a director you don't really want to question. I'm still going after Hida, the new Nia DaCosta film. I don't know, just one of those things that I can't really back up right now with facts or anything like that. I really feel that there's a lot you can do with this movie. I think Nia DaCosta, actually being out of like the studio system, no longer doing franchise, no IP here. It's just a adaptation of a famous play. You got some performances you can easily nominate with Tessa Thompson, and from what I can tell, Imogen Poots as well. You got some text you can deal with. It's being shot by Sean Bobbitt and composed by Hildur Guðnadóttir. I mean, come on. Plus production design, plus costume design. You got the stuff. It just kind of comes down to, will it hit? I'm sensing that we have a bigger deal than we're letting on. I could be wrong here. I'm not married to it, though. I'm against my best wishes. I think I have to predict Deliver Me From Nowhere. The music biopic, I think what Scott Cooper is going to do, look, you may say Scott Cooper's not great, and you would be correct, he isn't. But I think what you can say is I don't think this is going to be like a womb to tomb. I mean, Bruce Springsteen's still alive, so, it would have to not be. But, it's actually dealing with it. It feels a little more focused. It's about, like, a period in his life, about him, like, writing Nebraska. About his dad. I think it'll give Jeremy Allen White some like emotion to deal with. I think Jeremy Allen White playing Bruce Springsteen, I think that might just happen no matter what. But you don't want to really question the biopics. I think that's the only biopic I have in here, unless I'm mistaken about The Secret Agent, which I guess speaking of. But yeah, I don't want to like question the musical biopics again. I don't think it's going to be like a top 5. I think like people are going to go like, oh, maybe it gets directed, maybe it gets screenplay. And I'm like, well, okay, well, you wouldn't do that if it wasn't for a complete unknown. I wouldn't go that far. But yeah, I can talk about The Secret Agent real quick. I had it winning the Palme d'Or before because I knew it wasn't going to be sentimental value. And I was right. And while The Secret Agent didn't win, it did still walk away with director and actor. That's not nothing. I'm standing by it. That's not a nothing thing. I think that does still guarantee that it's going to become one of the fall festival's buzziest titles. Because yes, a lot of people are going to go see It Was Just an Accident, which I guess I can also talk about because I don't have it in. Far Panahi won a Palme d'Or. I think it does feel right that this is his moment. But I don't want to ignore the fact that we weren't even close to predicting it until that Palme win. I said before, I'm not going to predict a movie just because it won Palme, unless under certain circumstances, because it is still a jury prize at the end of the day. But however, what a Palme d'Or does do is give a movie a bunch of attention. But before the festival ended for Cannes, I think, well, It Was Just an Accident was definitely one of the more acclaimed films. I wouldn't say it was one of the buzziest. I think The Secret Agent was getting hella buzz. I think critics are going to prop that up like crazy, even more than It Was Just an Accident. But I do think It Was Just an Accident, winning that Palme, does give it a lot of buzz for Panahi in particular. It Was Just an Accident will never be submitted for international, at least by Iran. You know, obviously last year Germany did it. I don't think France is going to do it. Luxembourg, I do think they have the incentive to do it. But, until further notice, I'm going to say It Was Just an Accident is not an international player. Just because we know Iran's not going to do it. I do think this is, Panahi's moment. I agree. I don't know if that's going to automatically result in Oscar glory. I do think that Palme win does give attention to Panahi and everything that's happened, even more so than Mohammad Rasulov last year. I do think, when you look at what happened for Panahi throughout the last decade, I do think it is a little more jarring, and I think this could be that moment for him. However, I don't want to ignore the fact that, going into the festivals, I do agree, It Was Just an Accident will have more hype than Secret Agent, but what's going to happen when we exit the festivals? I'm not sure. I think The Secret Agent has a lot more going for it than It Was Just an Accident. You got that acting nomination. We got that guaranteed international, at least submission. I have heard it's a little slow, and that could be a problem, but, slower movies have happened. I'm predicting The Secret Agent. I'm putting my chips in that. I believe in it. Avatar Fire and Ash is, something that I can give you a bunch of reasons why it may not happen. I do think that these movies are going to start having diminishing returns. I think these movies are going to stop getting nominated eventually, but, I don't know. I don't have too much reason to believe this is the one that finally misses out. I mean, Avatar is going to be raking in billions as the season begins. That's something I don't want to ignore. I do think the fact that the gap is much smaller, and I think excitement will be a little bit lower, but I still think it's going to probably rake in at least just under $2 billion at worst. So yeah, I'm just going to predict Avatar. I'm going to play it safe and just predict it. I do got Jake Kelly around the outside. I got a lot of belief in this movie now. Especially with its acting with Clooney and Dern, and of course Adam Sandler. I found I was shot by Linus Sandgren, and that makes me go, ooh. I've also heard pretty amazing things. Again, going to be a pretty buzzy festival title. Can't wait to see it. But 10 slots. Same goes for After the Hunt. I just think its tech haul is way worse. But again, you got those acting nominations. You got that screenplay, which I've heard is amazing. I don't think this movie's going to be quite as isolating as some of Guadagnino's other films. What I am worried about is reaction to its subject matter. That makes me a little concerned. I mean, it's still probably going to be one of the buzziest and one of the most acclaimed films of the year, but I wait and see with Guadagnino sometimes. Let's talk about Wicked for good, because some might think I have a little too low. I don't know, man. I have a weird take about Wicked. I don't think it's quite as big a deal as John M. Chu seems to think it is. I don't know. I just don't think this movie is... I think that, the Wicked Palooza thing isn't going to be quite as in effect. It could just have a Dune 2 effect, and I don't mind. I don't think that's impossible, or it does get into the picture, but it gets a significant drop off in terms of nominations. We know Wicked's going to get some nominations. We know that's going to happen, but will it be a Best Picture movie this time around? I do think the fact that we just went out for it last year is an issue. I do think so. I think the fact that most people agree that the second half is worse than the first is a problem. I think the fact that it doesn't have the poppy music that the two biggest songs that people like, although I heard that For Good song is pretty huge, but the popular music Popular and Defying Gravity aren't in this one, and I think that matters, although maybe it can be canceled out by the fact that there are new songs by Arrivo and Grande. But I just think excitement for this movie is going to be much, much, much smaller than when the first one came out. I don't believe that this movie is going to quite have that effect. I could be wrong though. I'm aware that I might be doing something stupid. I could be having egg on my face. I don't know. I'm not feeling that this movie is quite what people think it's Like, I don't know. I don't think Wicked is this, like, at least the movies are gonna have this, like, long-lasting impact. I think by next August, by next April, we're never gonna speak about these movies again. It's not like the Dune movies or the Avatar movies where it's like these are gonna last decades. I think this movie, once part 2 comes out, like, that's it. I don't know. I'm not feeling it with Wicked. I'm just not feeling it. Like, I'm not thinking that this is going to be a sensation. We also got No Other Choice by Park Chan-wook. I think Park Chan-wook is going to have his moment eventually. This one, he's really, like, hyping up to be, like, his masterpiece, which, you know, he could be. I don't know. Maybe he's wrong, obviously. But if he's that passionate about it, you know, I do think there is going to be a moment where Park Chan-wook's going to be acknowledged by the Academy. This one feels like another one of his genre films about a guy who, like, you know, he's down on his luck, who kills people so that he can get work. Got some capitalism messaging there. We'll see when it goes to the festivals, you know? Like, it's gonna go. We know that. We'll see if it, like, reaches that. If it's so good that it can do what his other movies haven't done, which I do think that they're more open to that nowadays. Rental Family, again, it doesn't, you know, it's not lost on me that I have no Searchlight film in my lineup. But, you know, if they don't have the movie, I stand by that. Like, if there's any, like, you know, company that I would put a movie in just because it's them, it would be Searchlight. But I also stand by that if they don't have the movie, I'm not gonna just predict it because I need a movie from them. Rental Family does seem like it would be that, though. You got Brendan Fraser in the lead role. That's an easy nom right there if it gets in. You got a pretty heartwarming thing going on. The director is Hikari, who she directed a movie called 37 Seconds on Netflix, which comes highly recommended by me. I know this isn't just gonna be some sappy, like, tiff, like, comedy drama, but I also wonder if its tech haul seems pretty low. We'll see. You know, I'm not dumping it. I think there's a shot here. We got Ann Lee, directed by Mona Fastvold. You know, I don't want to reiterate some stuff I've said in the past, but, you know, there's a chance this movie could be really cold and nothing, but there's also a chance it's so big that it can't be ignored. You got some acting, you got some text, like, you know, it's there. But, would I be even looking at this if The Brutalist didn't happen last year? I mean, maybe. Brady Corbet being a co-writer, like, I think this movie will have more hype because of The Brutalist. I don't know. I feel fine keeping it out for now. Same with Hamnet, which I've really dropped off on. Initially, I didn't have it in the 20 for a minute, but then I put it back up because, you know, it has all, like, the stuff for a Oscar movie. I'm hearing something that say it's a little cold, which isn't ideal. But, you know, we were talking about, like, I don't think it's just going to be Buckley grieving the whole time. Like, that's absurd. You also got Lucas Zoll, like, as cinematographer. You know, there's a lot to play with this movie. I don't know, I can see some people being a little put off by it. Wake Up Dead Man, some might be going, absolutely not. But, I don't know, is these Knives Out movies just never going to get in? There's clear, like, industry respect for these movies. It's just, I don't think every single time it's going to be, all right, screenplay, and then it gets teased that it almost gets picture, but then doesn't. I don't think that's going to be the case for every single one of these movies. I think eventually it's going to break through, and I don't fully see why it can't be this one. I didn't watch the trailer, because I like going into these movies blind, but I have heard the tone is very different. Visually, just from the stills I saw, it looks very much better than Glass Onion. Visually, at least. Ryan Johnson doesn't fuck around with these movies, so I'm very interested to see what happens here, and I think eventually a Knives Out movie will get in. We got Nouvelle Vague. You know, in hindsight, you might be thinking, like, why? No, absolutely not. The buzz out of Cannes was fine. Fine to, like, very good, but, like, not like that. Netflix picked it up, you know. You got Linkler, you got some text you can nominate here. I don't want to, like, completely dump it. And I think France is going to submit it, too. A movie about Jean-Luc Godard isn't something I want to completely drop off immediately, but directed by, like, a guy they know, Richard Linklater. It could be something there that can come back to life if, like, if it's done right. Materialists. Let's talk about that for a minute. Because some people, I've seen it. I loved it. I thought it was incredible. I stand by that. If you love Past Lives, you're going to be, like, you're going to be satisfied with this movie. I feel like we dumped it so quickly because we thought it was one thing, but, like, I don't know. Like, it's a little more mainstream than Past Lives, for sure. But, like, since when is that a bad thing? I am thinking that Materialists could land with the right crowd. I think it's going to make possibly more money than Past Lives. You got your all-star cast. You got, like, an actor who's having the fucking best year of his life in Pedro Pascal. Honestly, you could nominate Dakota Johnson and Chris Evans and be validated. I would also throw out that Zoe Winters deserves to be nominated, but I don't think they would do that. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. Or am I saying I don't know because, like, we just decided that the answer is no, and I don't want to do that. So I'm saying keep this movie in the back burner, because this easily gets screenplay, this easily can get acting. I think the score is also very good. You got the Catherine Bigelow through it. Look, I have a rule, like, if a movie, I give a movie till October to, like, find, like, distribution before I'm, like, done. Now, Bigelow has distribution, but, like, it's in, like, the same camp where I'm like, yeah, all right, we have no stills, no nothing. That's fine, It's, it still is slated to come out this year, but, man, we have nothing on this movie. No title, no stills, no anything, no nothing. At some point, I have to be like, okay, hold up. And granted, I could post this and then we finally get a title. I don't know. But for now, I'm going to say, all right, I need something. I need something to prove this movie is a movie that exists. Ellen McKay got that boost to December. Pretty solid release date for an Oscar movie, I would say. Although, maybe they're dumping it, coming out just before Avatar. Like, same studio. Kind of makes me wonder if it's not actually going to get that TIFF premiere. But again, I think it still has something that we can play with. We got the drama. I stand by that. If that hits, if that plays at festivals and it gets super buzzy, we can play with it. Late Fame, another one. I want to play with that movie. It could get acting. It could get writing. I don't know much else it could get, but we'll see on that end. I like the sound of it. Sadat was another really heavily buzzed about movie at Cannes. Neon's clearly not going to prioritize this over all the other ones, but, like, I heard it's amazing, so, again, maybe festivals will play with it. Rivals of Mzia King, man! What's going on? Again, I give a movie till October to find distribution before I say, all right, you're done. And, I stand by it. I mean, it's probably going to get distribution, but apparently they're asking for a lot of money, so that could be an issue. But the biggest thing is, though, with this movie is, like, and it got, you might think, oh, it got such good praise out of South by Southwest. It's being touted as a crowd pleaser. That's always a plus. But South by Southwest is a jerk-off fest. Like, they fucking love to scream over the tiniest thing. They love Death of a Unicorn. That movie was shit. So, I don't know. And even if you look at the Metascore and the Letterboxd curve, it's not great. Life of Chuck, kind of done. Kind of over. But Neon, like, threw it out. They're like, all right, we have all of our chips in these Cannes titles. We can get rid of Life of Chuck. Perhaps it comes out, becomes way too buzzy. People love it way too much. People are way too moved by it that it can't be ignored. Perhaps, but I think Neon knows where its priority's at, and it's not here. Ballad of a Small Player. Again, you might think, well, Edward Berger, but again, I'm hearing this movie's a little more loose. Like, a little more, like, sedated than his other movies. And then maybe, if we're going, I'm going off of the book here. Maybe Berger will butcher it, but I don't know. If we're going off of the book, then I think that this isn't it. Maybe Farrell becomes a thing, though. Is this thing on? I'm entering that into the fray. Maybe it comes out this year, and I just can't tell what the tone of this movie is. Is this just like a loose comedy by Cooper? I mean, Will Arnett, you know what I mean? Like, is Will Arnett going to be Oscar nominated for this? I mean, perhaps if it's really good. I want to know what this movie is. The vision I have of this movie is not an Oscar movie. Sound of Falling, I heard it's fantastic. But I heard it's also a little isolating. Perhaps cinematography, perhaps international, but I don't know about picture. Train Dreams, we'll see if Netflix wants to play with that, but I can't imagine they're going to want to play with that over everything else they have. Smashing Machine, I love the trailer, but, based on some stuff I've heard, I'm thinking no. Roofman, again, I want to see if they can play with Channing Tatum, if that actually manifests. Death of Robin Hood, I want to stick with this movie until I know it's not coming out this year. Until further notice, I'm saying Death of Robin Hood could be a thing, because I think if it works, it will, I think it'll be very buzzy. I think Hugh Jackman could be big. I think Jodie Comer, Tex, Michael Sarnowski having his Oscar moment. I mean, not he's overdue, but, who knows? But a lot of people think it's not coming out this year, but I feel like it is until I know it's not. The Running Man, it's the most anticipated movie of the year. Maybe I'm being silly by saying it, but you know what? Again, similarly, if it's very good, if it's very successful, which I imagine it will be, perhaps he is adapting a pretty dark book, Edgar Wright. And again, Edgar Wright's a guy who, give him the right movie, they'll be happy to nominate him. This movie could just be text though. Or even nothing. Wizard of the Kremlin? I want to look at this one a little deeper, because I do think acting could be a thing. And if it starts there, and if the movie works, why stop there in a way? But Oliver Assayas isn't necessarily an Oscar filmmaker. But it doesn't always matter. F1. Reactions are out, but they seem very yes man-y. This might get text, but again, I always stand by this. It's gonna be in the shadow of Top Gun Maverick no matter what. I can't imagine this movie. And right now it's tracking box office wise to be pretty Christy Martin biopic, if Sydney Sweeney gets in, maybe it can morph, but I have no reason to believe. So same thing goes with Anemone. Again, that's, and At the Sea, really. It's really just Christy Martin biopic, Anemone, and At the Sea. I think those three movies are really just going off of like their lead acting prospects for Sydney Sweeney, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Amy Adams. Otherwise, I would say these movies are probably nothing, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Big Bold Beautiful Journey, a trailer exists. I saw most of it because I don't like 3-minute trailers, but at a point I turned off because I'm like, I'm watching the whole movie right now. It looks very sappy. It looks very, very much a much more broad Kogonada movie. I mean, I don't know. Never say never. I think it's going to be going to I will be seeing at the TIFF premiere. I'm thinking that the answer is no. It doesn't ring as one, but if it hits, then perhaps. As for The Lost Bus, I will not elaborate further, but the answer is no. The answer is absolutely no. And that is those are my best picture predictions. We'll try and get other ones out within June. Let us go and cheer. Bye-bye.